My name is Nick B, and let's jump into this week's futures overview. So let's start with the Forex Factory calendar. Let's see what kind of events we have for this week. All right, so Monday, nothing. ISM services PMI. Tuesday, okay, FOMC. Wednesday, not much. Thursday, unemployment claims. Friday, okay, so it's not going to be too crazy of a week. I think JPOW is actually talking right now, but overall, we might have a smooth start. We'll see where we open right now. Let's take a look at the text and what the first hour at least gave to us. All right, as always, let's start with ES. All right, whoops. All right. So before, you guys know I used to zoom it out on not even the 3-year, but let's say 2-year. No, I think it was 3-year. Daily right here, we had our 4808 level as a support, but we'll skip that because we have a whole new area to focus on along with the previous retest. So I think we'll be fine if we just make it a 2-year daily. Yeah, that's fine. Not even. We can make it 1 year. Okay, maybe not. All right, I'll leave this alone. Okay, so we have the all-time highs at 49.97.75. We're literally right there, about 20 points away. But there's a few things that I noticed on this climb up, and I'm looking also a little bit at the market sentiment. I know I shouldn't because that kind of might feed a bias, but I see that's quite some traders are getting ready to short, possibly to come down to 48.63, maybe even the 48.40, 43 area, which was a previous session high. This area I think is going to be super important as a support. Um, However, I don't think we visited yet, and I'll break this down on the intraday. 49.97, we can plot our resistance level there as well. But in other ways, I don't usually do this, but we have a channel forming here that we could draw out with a trend line, and it's a pretty bullish channel to the upside here. I mean, we don't have nothing really stopping price from breaking out. I mean, we'll have to see. Um, oops. We'll have to see exactly what we get. I don't want to act too fast. I know I mentioned on the chats that this does look like a long, and I do think so. Only partially. I'm swaying to that because we have exposure with QQQ calls from last week. And at the same time, just that overall sentiment where we might see that pullback, might not. This is an area of avoid because we're not really breaking out or breaking down yet. So at the same time, while I'm thinking about it, it might be useless to have these. Whoops, might be useless to have these intraday, channels here. So let me leave this floor alone. Let's break this down to the 4-hour because I just basically identified a floor from 48.44 up to 49.97. So if we get a break of 49.97, we may see 5,000, but I have a feeling we might even see 5,100 in the coming weeks unless we are able to take out 48.44 first, which would give us room to revisit previous higher lows of 47.46, 4,700, and I think ultimately the first move, the initial move that's going to confirm that now the dips will not be bought, or it's less likely that we see the dips get bought, is if and when we break below 4,700. So that's going to be kind of the last line of support, and that's going to open us up to this target that we've been eyeing since the 1st of January of 46.30 as a pullback. Again, that is ways away, but that's kind of the only moves in terms of up or downside we see. So I'm going to place an alert here at 48.44 just as kind of that meter there. Again, I'm not sure we visit that, but anything can happen. Anything can happen. And again, in terms of upside, 49.97, we can even take a stab at going long. No, we would need a better entry. This is a bit of a void because if we break 5,000, we're now probably going to be timing a ceiling, which is most likely a no-no. But in between, if we can see an opportunity where the dip gets bought near supports, we might go for it. The 4-hour, let's see this level right here, 49.63. No, just doesn't tell me much. If anything, the only thing on the 4-hour that's giving me some kind of idea of what price is doing is this bounce that we had off the 20-day EMA, and that happens to be at 49.37 with this bullish engulfing. So we could pull back to 49.64, but we might even see these levels of 49.40 as well. So I don't want to rush that. Let me see on the 1 hour what this looks like. Yeah, 49.62. I mean, that doesn't look too appetizing, but if we do start to see a bounce, maybe on the smaller time frames that we start to get bought up in this area, we could attempt the long. Actually, it's just the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm kind of getting turned off on that idea because, again, I'd rather wait for Monday. This is just Sunday. We're going over kind of these pre-movers. There's nothing happening here just yet. But it looks like we do want to come down to 49.62. Again, let's see. Maybe we get bought here. Maybe we don't. Maybe for the next few hours, we just go sideways in this area. But again, in terms of direction, it's either we get a break of 5,000 and we can assume that 5,080 to 5,100 would be our target to the upside, or we break below 48.44 and kind of start shorting. We could take attempts at shorting down to 47.48, 4,700, possibly as a start of a leg to the downside. Everything here, I mean, this is tough. The last 2 weeks that we've kind of tried to fight in these areas, and we're going to correlate this on NQ right now, but the last 2 weeks that we try to kind of fight through these areas is very it was very tough chop, and the reversals is just very difficult to account for. So we want something with a little bit more steady flow in terms of direction. Moving on to NQ, 1 year daily. I mean, yeah, we could pull it up. Let me see on the 2 year with this 3 years actually. It doesn't really tell us anything new. Yeah, we can assume that this was 16,767, similar to where this higher low was. So I don't really need to plot this out. I could go back down to probably the 2 year daily. That's fine. Okay. And I already have a plotted floor here. This was previous session highs of 17. Let me edit this to 165. And that was just the exact level. 65. So in order for us, again, same thing. We'll have to look at this on the intraday right now, but if we look at this on the big picture, below 17,165, we can kind of assume that we're going to start making that leg down towards previous higher lows of 16,700. Then below 16,700, we have 16,336, and then below 16,336, we have that target of 16,060, which is in correlation with, yes, if we're targeting 4630 to the downside, on NQ, it's going to be 16,066 area right here. So I'm going to go ahead, I'll leave that alone. I'm just going to change it to a yellow color, but instead, what I'll do is I'll create an alert here. Create alert. Yeah, that's fine, 168. So if this alert starts breaking down, I'll start looking for, opportunity to taking attempts to shorting this to previous higher lows. In terms of upside, I mean, to act on anything here, again, we're kind of technically in the void. Only if and when we get above 17,800, I think it would be a fair shot to begin targeting 18,000 to the upside. But again, anything here, anything can happen. We could reverse back down to 17,337, 17,400 area. We could maybe just reverse down to 17,500 and bounce. I mean, let's see what this looks like on the 4 hour. Okay, so look, we're kind of starting to slow down here. One, two, three times we're knocking on this area. So in terms of upside, I would say only 17,800 breaks. You take a stab at going long towards 18,000. You can target, 17,900 first, then above 17,900, 18,000. I think that would be fair. Because again, everything here in between, it's kind of like taking a chance. 4 hour, would I want to short anything here? No, not necessarily. And again, earlier I did mention that kind of futures look like they're setting up for longs because it's kind of looks like a bull flag. But again, anything can happen into Monday's open. I much rather wait until then. On the 1 hour here, we're pulling back down towards the 20-day EMA if we get there, of course. This is 17,650. Interesting. On the 1 hour, 17,650 was also the breakout that we went long on last week. So if we do pull back to 17,650 and continue to hold it, maybe bounce off that level, maybe that may be an opportunity for a buy to dip, but again, we'll see. See how it's tough to kind of just navigate through these areas here. I mean, really, your first short to the downside where you might be able to feel safe shorting is on a break of the FOMC breakout, which was at 17,485. If we break below that, I think we shouldn't have an issue shorting down to not just 17,400, but I think the base of 17,255, which was also a previous target of ours to the downside right here when we made all-time highs. Then we retested 17,165 and continued higher. So we could, but again, the fact that I'm using the term take a chance on, I'm not a fan of that. So again, in terms of direction, to reiterate on NQ, either 17,800 breaks and we see 18,000, maybe 18,001 or two, or we finally make it down to 17,168. That breaks down, and we can, I don't want to say assume, but we can definitely see probably 16,700 first. I'm going based off of the higher lows on the 1 hour, and then below 16,700, we can assume to see 16,400, probably 16,334 before ultimately seeing that pullback target of ours at 16,066, which is initially what is holding up this entire move to the upside. Other than that, I mean, that's all she wrote. We'll see what we get into Monday's open, and we'll go from there. Cheers.